What's going on, guys? Uh, I've gotten quite a few new subs, and there's a not only a new sub, but there's been a couple other subs that has heard me talking about how I have lived in 11 states and, to the best of my knowledge, at least 50 different cities. Now, most of the people think by me saying that I was running from the law or something. I mean, even military uh, families, they might move that many times, but it's probably not that many different states, but in different countries. If you're in the military, you might live in Germany for a while, or Japan, or wherever you could be based, and then even if you spend a career in there, you end up back in the states. Uh, most of the time you're not going to jump from state to state every couple of years. They're going to put you in a state and keep you there doing a job, and so most people don't understand why I would have lived in 11 different states. Now, these 11 different states, there's probably at least three or four of them I lived in more than once. Arizona being one, Tennessee, Indiana. Let me see. At least those three. Alabama could be a fourth one. The last time I stayed in Alabama, I was in a motorhome, and we stayed there for 3 months. Parked on my mom and dad's property. That could be considered a second time, but uh, the reason why I traveled like I did sprouted off of my parents. Now, when I was a kid, uh, when I was basically a baby, probably from from born to about, I think it was 4 years old. Um, my mom and dad was just getting settled into Indiana after I was born. I was born in Nashville. After I was born, they left Nashville and moved up to Indiana. My dad was offered a job working in the painters union for Standard Oil Company, going around painting just gas stations, Standard, FINA, and Sunoco gas stations. He did that for 20 years at least. Um, but once he got that job, and we bought our house and settled in Greenwood, Indiana, they they started traveling. I mean, they bought the house for $16,000, folks. 16 grand for a fucking house, and the payments were broken over 30 years. They had like $150, $140 house note. Okay, this was back in the 60s, and they lived there for. We lived there until, or they lived in that house until about 84, 1984. Uh, but anyway, my dad worked for the painters union. He made good money. Back there, even back then, he was making more money than most of you make today. Uh, my mom was working for. Ended up, she was always she always had a career, and she worked in offices. The place she worked at, and she worked there for about 20 years. When I was growing up, was Bryant Air Conditioning in Plainfield, in Indiana, just outside of Indianapolis, south of Indianapolis. Actually, south. I think southwest corner of Indianapolis. But anyway, that's where the airport was, out that way. They had money in the bank, and my mom put money in accounts for Christmas and shit like that. But we always, during the summer months when we were out of school, my mom always planned a month-long vacation, and we started off in a pop-up camper. I ain't kidding you, a pop-up camper, and we went from Indianapolis, basically Greenwood, Indiana, south of Indianapolis. But we went from Indianapolis out to Arizona, down to Florida and shit in this pop-up camper, 5 of us. But me and my brother and sister were kids, so we were small. Um, we moved up from that pop-up camper all the way up to a motorhome when I was in high school. Even when I was in high school, folks, the house payment, the electric bills, the water bills, the car payments, and the motorhome and everything only cost them $500 a month. And they were making, my dad was making like 20 some bucks or no, he was making $18 an hour, and every 10 foot, I think they said it was, he went into the air, he made another 50 cents an hour in the union. So my dad was swinging off of freaking skyscrapers. He was doing water towers. He was doing anything high he would do it all, you know. The higher in the air he was, the more money he was making. And my mom was making she was making $14 an hour, folks. 14 back in the 1960s, 1970s. That 14 bucks an hour back then. Oh yeah, you live good off that. But they like to travel, so we traveled a lot. Uh, I've seen a lot of places, folks, that I wanted to go back to without my parents. Well, my parents had the money. I didn't have no damn money. So when I wanted to go somewhere like Florida, I had to move there because I only had enough money to go one way and then figure out what I was going to do down there. I ain't playing with you, folks. My dad laughed at me so many times. He was like, I just don't know how you do it. I just don't know how you do it. I'm going, what? He goes, you get in a $200 car that's got Maypops on it. And Maypops, folks, these are tires that are so bald they may pop any time. But he'd say, you get in a car, $200 car with Maypops all the way around it, and you'll drive 2,000 miles across the United States and never have trouble tire without a spare, and never have no car trouble, no tire trouble. He goes, I don't know how you do it. He goes, I swear it, folks. I used to crack up because when he got older, he didn't drive nothing other than a couple-year-old vehicle. He drove new shit, and it didn't matter. He could be driving to the Walmart and have a blowout, and with brand new tires and a brand new car. And then he'd see me come rolling in a $200 car that the quarter panel on the right side smashed, the bumper's gone, the hood's tied down on it, and I just drove it 1,800 miles from Indianapolis back out to Arizona or something, you know. And but the reason I did this, folks, is I like to travel, and I liked adventures. I like to go places, you know, that I've seen, that I was when I was a kid, and then I wanted to go see things that I heard about and heard people talk about and shit. So I did it, but I did it in a way you guys would have never done it. I ain't playing with it. I was sitting in Indianapolis one time. All my family and everybody was out in Arizona. I brought my stupid ass back up to Greenwood, Indiana, and the people that I was staying with, some stupid shit happened, and I got thrown out in the middle of the winter. Didn't have enough money to get back to Arizona. Had my car and shit. It got pretty freaking cold, people. But I owned something that most people didn't have. I owned a duck down comforter that I bought at a high dollar store out in Arizona. I got it cheap, but it was a high dollar duck down blanket. I could get in the back seat of my car in the middle of the winter because I didn't have enough money to leave the car running with the heater on. I could get in the back seat of my car, cover up my entire body with that blanket, and I could lay back there and stay toasty all night long, sleep all night long, comfortable. Wake up, pull that blanket off my head, and it was freezing like hell. I had to jump up, fire up the car, and get back under that blanket, get it warmed up in there before I could get out, get up and go. But I've been in places cold like that. I've been in places, people, I didn't have no money. I didn't have nobody to call. I couldn't call my parents, say, hey, my parents done told me, you go to jail, don't call us. You get yourself off somewhere that we don't think you should be, don't call us to get back. Well, it took me a long time, but I finally figured it out. And I've told this in other videos. I was looking for something, and it was my home. I was looking for home, folks. I traveled 11 states and at least 50 cities looking for home. Somewhere I felt that was home. Nowhere I had ever lived in my life, not when I was a kid, not where my family all lived down in Tennessee and shit. That didn't feel like home to me. Alabama, Florida, Arizona, California, Colorado, Wyoming, Ohio, none of these places did I ever feel at home. There's a reason for it. And it took me 55 years to figure it out. My home isn't on this earth. My home is in heaven. And it was about, people, I'm telling you, when I was traveling around this country, I didn't have GPS. I didn't have a cell phone in my hand. I had a compass and map, a road atlas. As long as I had those two things, I could get myself anywhere I wanted to be in this country, even if it's on foot. You guys, I didn't have the cell phone. Man, I lived half my life without cell phones or computers. That ain't no lie. Half my life, 60 years, 30 years of it, I lived without those things. I don't need them. I still today don't need them. I still today have never found that home either. Now, I have a family. Make no mistake. Family is different than home. Man, that's a whole nother video, actually, folks. I'm going to break it down to you real short. My blood family was not a good family. God removed them from my life. All of them. My mom and dad just died. My mom died a year ago in May. and my dad died 6 months before that. After my mom and dad died, the rest of my blood family I have no use for. And I can sit here for hours and tell you why. God removed them from my life. I kept them in my life for 50 years. No, for more than that. For 58 years, 57 years. I forced them to stay in my life when God was trying to remove them. The family I have today, folks, and I ain't lying to you one bit, not one of them is blood related to me. Not one. My wife had a son and a daughter when I met her. My son was 3, my daughter was like 4.5. I've been there for them ever since then. Me and my wife's been married 30 years. My son's married, has a wife, and they gave us our first granddaughter. No, there's nobody up here. My personal family, none of them treat me like my blood family did. I wouldn't put up with it. And they wouldn't put, my family I have up here wouldn't put up with it for me either, to be honest with you. This is why it's so important, folks. When it says to love thy neighbor, sometimes that's all you have. Why would it be hard to love them? Even if your neighbor can become a close, your neighbor can become family. Doesn't matter who they are. Blood has nothing to do with it. Family is people who love each other, care about each other, going to help each other when they need help. They're all going to stand together. That's love, you know. If I love you, if you're marrying a woman or your husband or your wife, are you going to want to everything you have, everything in you, you want to do to help them, help whatever it might be, help them to feel better about themselves, or help them financially, or help them in every way you can. I don't care what it is. I wash dishes. I do laundry. I mop floors. I vacuum. I do all that shit. Not counting, I do everything outside the fucking house. I cut the grass. I'm a mechanic on the vehicles. I do all that outside too, shit. But I do that other stuff not because my wife asked me to. I do it because I want to do it for her, because she's tired too. She's 60 as well. Well, she's still able to work a job. I'm not capable of that at this point. So I do those things for her because I want to. It ain't, I have to, it ain't nothing. I don't cook, folks. I'm not even going to go there. I can make hot dogs and shit and bologna sandwiches, and I can do that shit. And but I do, and she does the same thing for me. She does things that she knows. I'll say something about it, and I'll be off dealing with something, and I'll come back and she's done it, so that but she does it for me because she wants to. It's not a have to thing. That's the most important thing, folks. The people that I have surrounded myself with, I couldn't have chosen better. I didn't even choose them. God put me and my wife together. There ain't no doubt about that. She was from Walden, Colorado, and I was from Nashville, Tennessee, a long ways away. And we landed pinpointed in Mesa, Arizona at the same damn time and been together ever since. We were put together. And I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. God chose better than I could have ever chose. People I chose. And I was married once before, folks, for a year. Before I was married to the wife I have now. And that was shameful at best. But I was. That's why I traveled, folks. That's why I lived in so many cities. Even here in Ohio, I've already lived in 2 cities. So, and I've only been here 4 years. So, I mean, and there's other states that I lived in the north part of the state, and then moved to the southern part of the state, and then moved out to the west, or so, that. So, uh, I'm just saying, folks. That's why I kind of gotten off. I had gotten screwed up on what I was talking about here, so I'm looking down at these notes, and I'm basically explaining why I traveled so much. So I think I hit the nail on the head. You got to give me that. I've been babbling for 21 minutes, and I can go off 1,000 directions in these stories, folks. I'm telling you, I wish, I hope and pray you guys at least have half of what I can just sit here and I could go on for days telling you stuff that I've done, folks. I'm telling you. And I know there's not a whole bunch of us out there like that. I know there's not a whole bunch, and at least there's not a whole bunch of us that are on YouTube right now talking about it. Uh, People, I hope and pray that you find or have found Jesus' path. I ain't playing about that at all. If that's nothing else that you get out of anything I do, just seek that path. Just think about it. Let's start looking into it, seeing what Jesus did. You will never do exactly what Jesus did. None of us can. There ain't no way. The only way we could is if we had the same authority Jesus had. So don't think for a second that you're going to pick up that Holy Bible and start reading about Jesus and be able to do everything Jesus did exactly how he did it. No, ain't going to happen. He was ordained by the Father. He was ordained by God to have the authority and the power that he has. He still has it. He still has it. So, if you just start reading that and seeking that path, the things in that book will start becoming clearer and clearer to you. The more your relationship builds with Jesus and the path that he took, the more of that you do, you get to that point where you're reborn in God's eyes, and you're handed. He gives you the Holy Spirit. People, that's what you need to do. Especially in a time like today. God loves you, folks. And I love you as well. Time's running out on all of us. What if tomorrow, for you, is your last day? and you knew it, what would you spend your day doing? God loves you, folks. So do I. Till the next one.